All right, what's good, people? Yes, I know. We know it's Monday, but at least you're not Cody Parkey. Instead, Jessie, Emerson, hosting this weekly DraftKings program called The Sweat. We're happy to have you here.
And we're going to take an early look at some of the spreads for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs.
Indeed.
As well as who to pay up for on this 5-game NHL slate. But first, 'tis the season. It's our NBA gang.
Yes, welcome to the show, Mr. Gary and Thorne, Julian Edlow of DK Live, plus DFS, NBA guru Jeff Eisenband. Gentlemen, let's take a gander at some of tonight's game totals, and you tell us and the people at home if the over or the under hits here. Very simple. Starting with the highest total on the slate, it's the Magic visiting the Kings. Over or under 223, Garion.
Yeah, I like this game to go over, actually. It's a big number, like you talked about, the biggest on the slate. But just look at the way these two teams have performed defensively across the last 10 games. Both are in the bottom 7 of the league in defensive rating over that span of time. And over that 10-game run, the Kings are allowing over 120 points per game to opponents because they still own the highest pace in the Western Conference. So I think this is just two young teams. I think there's going to be a lot of running in this game. Orlando is slow, but I think they'll play to the Kings' pace. So I do think this one goes over.
How do you feel about this one, Jeff?
I thought I was going to be in the minority in this, but I'm going to say over. The Kings are on a 4-game losing streak, but they play such a fast style. They're playing at home. This is the 5th of a game of a road trip for the Orlando Magic. So I just think the Kings keep their foot on the pedal. And going back to December 23rd, both teams in Sacramento Kings games have had at least 108. So I'm going over with this game.
And now to Julian, who does not have as nice of a backdrop as Jeff. Go ahead.
Thanks for pointing that out, Emerson.
But
no, not only are you going to be thinking you're in the minority here, but we're going to make this unanimous and go over. Look, Orlando was a much better defensive team to kind of kick the season off, but has fallen off a lot in recent games, as Garion touched on. And then the Kings are one of the worst defensive teams all season long and one of the fastest-paced teams on offense all season long. So I think Orlando is going to have to play to Sacramento's speed in this one. The game is in Sacramento. Sacramento's the better team, so I like this game to go over as well.
On the flip side, the lowest total is set at 213 for the Spurs at Pistons. Where are you going, Jeff?
I'm going over. It's hard for me to go under in any NBA game, but I think with these two teams, the Spurs and Pistons, people might be fooled. These are not your old school Spurs and Pistons teams necessarily defensively. I mean, you look at the Spurs making that Kawhi Leonard to DeMar DeRozan trade, that automatically makes this a better offensive team. And I just think these two teams, then with Blake Griffin in Detroit, both these teams score more points than people are used to. I'm going over.
Do you agree, Julian?
I do agree. And I also agree that betting NBA unders is really tough. When you see a game that you think is going over, it's a lot more easy, I think, at least in my opinion, to identify than a game that's going to go under. And this is one that at the lowest total of the night, I think is a really good bargain because, you know, the Spurs are a completely different team. They've been playing a lot more fast-paced. They've been playing a lot more small ball as well, which they're not going to do as much tonight with Rudy Gay out. Detroit, obviously a big team, so Sacramento's going to have to get some bodies in there, but the Pistons have proven that they can score as well. They're at home tonight. I just think it's too low of a total. It's not going to be a shootout like some of these games, but it can go over this number.
Well, are we going to make it 3 for 3 on the over here?
Yeah, let's get some argument going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Marianne.
It is hard to take unders, I admit that, but these two teams don't really, well, one of them's trying to kind of meld to the new playing style of the NBA, but there's just not going to be a lot of made three-pointers in this game. San Antonio's defense has been fantastic across the last 10 games. They're 3rd in defensive rating in that span, and their offense has been equally good over that stretch. So, again, this could still go over, but they don't take three-pointers. They have the lowest percentage of their shot attempts this season from beyond the arc, and Detroit tries, but they suck at it. They have the 3rd worst shooting percentage in basketball from beyond the arc. So I think you have two teams that are relatively solid defensively, at least they have been in the last month or so. I don't think they're going to be shooting an abundance of threes. Maybe this game makes under.
All right, Gary, and the high-scoring Pelicans host the Memphis Grizzlies, so it's the 2nd best scoring team in the league, welcoming in the NBA's 2nd worst scoring team. The total 214.5, over or under, and why?
I'm just
No,
Sorry,
I'd like to. No, you are Garion.
Really
I can
similar
confirm.
today. I was gonna say. I'm just inclined to take the over in Pelicans games. It tends to hit. They play really good offense. They play really poor defense, and it kind of swings things in that direction. To point, the last 21 times they've faced a team below 500, that game has gone over 16 of the 21 times. And also, we talk about Memphis, grit and grind. Yeah, it looked like that at the start of the season. Across the last 5 games, they've allowed almost 112 points per 100 possessions. Like, their defense is regressing pretty rapidly right now. So let's just take the over in this game.
All right, well, Julian just looked ready. Go ahead, bud.
Well, I'm ready when you call on me, Emerson, and I do agree that this game is going over. The number's too low. We just spoke about that Pistons and Spurs game. It's only a 1-point difference, and in this game, we get to feature one of the highest scoring teams in the NBA playing at home. So, as Garion just touched on, Memphis, really good defense, really grinded out team on offense. But we've seen them in some higher scoring games of late. So you take a team that's been in more high scoring games than they're used to recently and put them on the road in New Orleans. I think that's a really tough spot to take a really low under.
All right, you just want to go ahead and tell me why you're taking the over here, Jeff?
No, I'll play devil's advocate. I'll take the under here. I'll tell you, Grind City, we know they got fight in them based on what happened in the locker room. Last time they played at home, they played a very high-scoring Brooklyn Nets team, held them to 109, a hot Brooklyn Nets team. So I'll say in Memphis, Grind City, keep it below.
Ooh.
Good stuff.
All right, the Knicks continue their road trip out west and are in Portland to take on the Trailblazers. The total sits at 221.5. Over or under that mark, Julian?
Yeah, I'm going to go under here.
Ooh.
It's almost the highest game that we've discussed. We've got Magic and Kings sitting just a 1.5 above that. That just doesn't feel right when you say that we're talking about the Knicks on the road against a good defensive team like Portland here. I don't trust the Knicks enough on a West Coast road game against a good team to get enough points to get this game over. And then Portland can struggle themselves at times and are not really the fastest paced team. So I just think this number is set too high. I don't necessarily love betting the over here, but if I have to pick which side I'm going on, I got to go under.
Yeah, Jeff, we know that Julian doesn't like going under, but here he is. So where are you going on this one?
Oh, I'm going so far under with this one. The New York Knicks just ended an 8-game losing streak by beating the Los Angeles Lakers by 7, which is all the more reason that the Knicks are about to lay an egg in Portland on the 5th game of a road trip. I don't trust the Knicks at all, especially with Golden State coming up the next night. I think we're looking at 2 bad teams from an imploding New York Knicks team, and honestly, I'm pretty excited about it.
Wow, pretty pumped for that to implode.
Garion, in the
Garion,
Empire City there.
over or under here?
Zion's coming.
Yeah, let's go around to unders here. From a statistical perspective, 6 of the last 7 Portland games have gone under the number, and that coincides with them having the 3rd best defensive rating in basketball over that same span. So it makes sense. From a narrative perspective, like these guys talked about, you're basically asking superhuman performance of the Portland Trailblazers for 3 quarters, because I don't think they're going to have to play the 4th quarter, and the Knicks suck. So this is a pretty big number, and I just don't see it getting there.
All right, you guys take a break. We'll bring you back to see who your top pick at each position is coming up. But first, we're price checking with our NFL squad after this.
Hey, it's your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Brendan Glasheen. The Timberwolves fired President of Basketball Operations and head coach Tom Thibodeau Sunday after Minnesota beat the Lakers at home by 22 points. Ryan Saunders, the 32-year-old son of the late Flip Saunders, takes over head coaching duties. The Wolves plan to separate the powers of front office and coach going forward. Tibbs had just gotten over the Jimmy Butler saga. The team was 4-9 with the All-Star from the start of the year, 15-12 without him. End of the day, Thibodeau never entirely got through to his young core. So whoever the next leader is, you're going to have to make Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins work. There's really no other choice. Towns is signed through 2024. Wiggins is under contract through 2023. No options for either. Combined, the duo is set to make more than $310 million. Thankfully, these guys are still kids, only 23 years old, and part of being young and being a kid in the NBA, learning how to win, especially on the road. The Wolves take their 5-15 away record to Oklahoma City and face the Thunder Tuesday night.
Wildcard weekend has come to a close, and I think we can all agree it was wild.
Indeed it was, Miss
Some
Coffield.
wilder than others. But now we're turning our attention to the divisional round, and we're bringing in our panel to help you decide who's going to return value at each position.
And here are our experts. DK Live's Reed Fowler. There's Pierce Dietrich right there in the middle. And Jeff Ulrich. No, not prison Jeff, just regular Jeff Ulrich. We'll do things a little differently. Usually we give you a player and you say if he's going to meet value, but we're hitting you with the old switcheroo. Instead, you give us and those watching around the world right now the players you think will provide the most bang for their buck for the divisional round. Okay?
All around the world. Starting at the quarterback position, Pierce, do you like the defending Super Bowl champ himself?
I do. I like Nick Foles a lot this week. And he's the cheapest guy to get on the board, and it works out. Look, July is named after Julius Caesar. August is named after Augustus Caesar. So let's take January and February, smash them together, and let's call it Foles-uary. This is his time of the year. Last week, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns against the best pass defense in football on the road. He shouldn't have any problem this week against the Saints, 22nd in pass DVOA. 6 times they've allowed over 350 passing yards, 11 times over 250 passing yards, 9 multi-touchdown games. Save the money, take Nick Foles.
Jeff, who do you like at quarterback?
I just want to alert viewers here to like the monumental occasion here. Pierce and I are reunited. It's going to be a 30 for 30 special on us one day. We started DK Live back when my backdrop was like the desk in my kitchen. This is the big time. I'm also good on Pierce for not naming a NASCAR driver. I'll throw out a few. William Byron, Kurt Busch, Austin Dillon. That's all I know.
Okay, great. I can tell you.
I'm trying to make Pierce feel at home.
All right.
Yeah, welcome back.
See, you've hit up happy hour. Now you want to answer the question?
What are we on, QBs? It's Andrew Luck. I mean, look, I love Nick Foles, but Andrew Luck's playing the Kansas City Chiefs. This is just, I'll get into the matchup later when we talk about the spreads and stuff. But, I mean, Kansas City against the quarterback, 5th most DK points per game. Andrew Luck playing at an efficient level. This is a nightmare for Kansas City. Andrew Luck's going to go absolute ham in this game, and I'll take the discount off of Patrick Holmes this week for DK.
Reed, you're not on the Andrew Luck train or the Nick Foles train.
No, I like Jared Goff. Well, talking about Jeff and his love affair for Pierce, he also has a love affair with Steve Buchanan on Twitter. Now, if you guys saw that, they had an epic conversation with their kids and this and that. So go check it out on Twitter. So it's a great follow for both of them. But I'm on Jared Goff this week. And again, both of those guys aren't bad plays at all, right? You have Foles at the cheapest going against the Saints, but Goff gets Dallas. On paper, Dallas isn't the best to go up against, but Goff at 5,500. Look, the Rams are putting up over 330 yards passing at home. And the Cowboys are putting up 250 or giving up 250 passing yards on the road. We saw that, yes, Russ Wilson didn't go for that much, but that's not really his game flow. I think when you give McVay a couple of weeks to plan for either teams, right, in Seattle or Dallas, he's going to design some of these plays where he gets that crowd going. And I just see Goff putting up a ton of points. And that run defense in Dallas, I don't think you can really test it. Even with Todd Gurley back at full strength, I don't think you can test it that much. I see Goff returning value here.
Reed, let's talk some running backs here. Who's bringing home the bacon?
Yeah, I like James White in this situation. Like, this is really where we saw James White in this season do what he does in the postseason, which is just perform extremely well. You have a Chargers team where I really thought the Ravens would have put up more in terms of targets to the running back, because the Chargers give up the 4th most targets and receptions and the most yards, receiving yards, to pass-catching running backs. And that is the epitome of James White. We see him in the playoffs do extremely well. We saw him, I believe a couple years ago, get 16 targets against Atlanta in a playoff game. So this guy is usually reserved for the playoffs. I just like him at 4,900 for a lot of savings, so you can pair him up with some of the top guys.
Pierce, you're going with the cereal-eating machine.
Yeah, so Zeke may not be the best point per dollar play, but not every one of your players has to be the best point per dollar guy. I'll take the raw points, and I'll take the security. For me, it just goes back to that Colts game a couple weeks ago. The Cowboys get crushed 23-0. In a 23-0 beatdown, the running backs, they will not have good games. But somehow, because he's Ezekiel Elliott, he still had a good game. Almost 90 yards rushing, 7 catches for 40 yards. He just doesn't have bad games. He has a ton of volume. Now he's facing one of the worst run DVOAs in football. I don't see how you can script him out of this game. Maybe you fade him because you're playing, well, maybe everyone's going to play him and he gets injured. Well, he doesn't get injured. He looked like he turned his ankle last week, and he didn't even miss a play. Ezekiel Elliott is a guaranteed lock.
Jeffrey.
Hey, Reed, I don't want to leave you out of this, by the way, too. I mean, you have one good pick today. We haven't gotten to it yet, but you do have one good one. So I'll let everyone know when we get there. I'm going with Damian Williams. I mean, Spencer Ware's still banged up. How are the Chiefs are people expecting the Chiefs just not use Damian Williams, even if Spencer Ware comes back? That's not going to happen. I can't believe he's only 5,100. This guy's seen 21 targets over the last 4 weeks. Guess what? He's caught 20 of them. He's hyper efficient in the pass game. Colts have allowed the third most receptions to running backs. I think he's going to get used a lot. He's looked really, really good in the starting role. So Damian Williams, 5,100, too cheap.
All right, what about wide receivers, Jeff? Who's going to return value on their price this weekend?
Yeah, look, I mean, someone from the Saints wide receiver core is probably going to go off. I'm just going to go with the cheapest one. I'm going to go with Ted Ginn, and I think the Saints kind of tipped their hand what they're going to do with their second wide receiver position in that game against Pittsburgh. Ted Ginn saw 8 targets in his first game back. Draquan Smith's a nice player, but I just don't think the Saints trust him, or he's just not good enough. Ginn's going to be the number 2 guy. We saw that secondary just get absolutely torched by Allen Robinson. Ginn is probably going to get secondary coverage, so who's ever not covering Michael Thomas and trying to shut him down, Ginn is going to get. In the Superdome, I think Ginn's a really good shot to return a big-time game here, so I'll go with Ted Ginn.
Pierce, hit us with your pick.
Alshon Jeffrey. If this line is right, then the Eagles are going to be playing from behind. That means they're going to be passing a lot, and Alshon should be able to pad the stats. And if it's wrong and this game's close, the Eagles are not going to keep the game close, moving the ball on the ground. They're going to pass, so Alshon's going to have a good game. New Orleans, 22nd pass DVOA, 30th against wide receiver 1. 31 times they've given up double-digit points to wide receivers. There's been plenty of wide receivers that have absolutely scorched them. I mean, the Saints still win games, but they like to give up points, especially when they get up ahead on somebody. And we saw this last year. Already again this year, Foles takes over. Alshon has become one of his favorite targets. You look last year, deep in the playoff run, it was Alshon and Nick Foles piling up points.
Reed, you're just going to retweet that?
Yep, exactly. How's it going, Jesse? I appreciate that. Yeah, look, Philadelphia, they throw the ball. To Pierce's point, they don't really run it. They're not going to run it with Josh Adams, who saw what really the running back that they preferred in Darren Sproles get the most carries and then also I believe the most targets. So they're not necessarily going to Josh Adams here. It's Alshon Jeffrey. They're passing the 8th most times. So I agree with that pick there.
All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for doing your homework on tight ends. We don't have enough time. We'll have you back later on in the show, though, to talk game spread, so please be prepared.
No, but that's after we have the slate breaker. Ben Zwyman join us to talk hockey. And right now, a special treat, Pat Mayo previewing the Sony Open, which is in Hawaii, a place I'd really like to be.
I'm going with Reed and
without you.
Oh.
Key stats, par 4 scoring, strokes gained approach, far more important here. Strokes gained off the tee, not really all that important. So, like, bad drivers have won here in the past, like Brent Snedeker. Did Snedeker win? No, he lost in the playoff to Fabian Gomez. But, like, the big-time, like, off-the-tee players.
Jimmy Walker won here, right?
Jimmy Walker won here back-to-back. Last year it was Kazire, another guy who's not great off the tee, but can get really hot with the irons. So that's what I'm focusing on. I released my rankings, stat rankings from the modeling. That's up on my Facebook page right now. So the field itself, the favorites for the Sony Open, coming in at number 1, the winner 2 years ago. Coming off a good week in the Tournament of Champions, Justin Thomas is 6.5 to 1. Bryson's 10 to 1. Spieth, for the first time this year, we see him 14 to 1, as is Gary Woodland. Leishman 20, Champ 25, Reed, Cam Smith 28 to 1. Then you got Hideki Matsuyama at 30 to 1. My eyes just gravitate towards Justin Thomas, but 6.5 to 1 is super tough. That might just end up being a DraftKings play, but I immediately jumped on Leishman at 20 to 1. I did like how he played last week. He putted well, he hit the irons well, couldn't drive all that much. But again, here it's not that big of a deal. And it feels like he's going to eventually break through. And he's coming in, he has 3 top 5s in his past 4 starts. He gagged it in Australia. He won the no-cut event during the swing season. 4th place finish last week. He's played this event each of the past 6 years, made the cut every time, but only 2 top 10s. That was 5 and 6 years ago. Feels like a good time for him, and that 20 number is not going to last for long, especially if Woodland withdraws. That I think this gets bet down to 16 or 14 anyway. So hit it at 20 right now. I already have.
I like it a lot. I was on Leishman last week, so it's easy for me to want to stay on there. You mentioned how he's been playing pretty consistently. It's actually an easy pick. I'm always tempted by any Bryson numbers, but you mentioned some real sloppy.
The ball striking just wasn't
sloppy,
there.
and that's sort of his bread and butter.
Yeah,
know.
I wouldn't expect him to lead the field in putting every week. Although maybe this pins in thing is really working for Bryson.
But I like the Leishman bet again at 20-1. I think after Thomas and Bryson, he's the best player in this field.
No respect to Jordan Spieth at 14-1.
Doesn't do it for me. You want that?
No, not really.
You want to see signs, maybe. I'm not against.
He played incredibly well here last year. This was one of those tournaments where like he couldn't putt, but tee to green he was very, very good.
How are you looking to pick on him? Like, would you be interested in a Leishman versus Spieth head-to-head bet? No. Not with me.
No.
I mean,
no.
Plus money on the book.
I'm not looking to attack Spieth in the spot because I do think that Spieth has a rebound year. I just don't know I don't know if Hawaii in the first event of the year is where that starts.
He's probably there with his new wife. I doubt it. 6
of the past 7 winners of the Sony Open have played the week before at the Tournament of Champions. That even includes Fabian Gomez, the longer odds guys.
Patton Kizzire.
Kizzire last year, yeah.
Yeah.
So the last one who didn't do it was Russell Henley in 2013. He was also the last player to win in his first start at Waialae. And before that, it had been 1979. But what about Woodland? Because Woodland has played really well at this course in the past. Do you think that's too much for him? Because guys, a lot of the time, if you see them, parlay that second into a first. We saw it with Aaron Wise last year. It's happened a bunch of times. They have the good finish, and then they win the next week. They actually close it down.
And I do believe that there's something about this. This is like a newer Woodland.
Do you want to hit it? If we thought that 20-1 was a bit much, do we think that 14-1 is too much?
Yeah, I'm not there. I don't want to bet this. I'll dip my foot into Woodland ponds in the fullest fields. And that might be dangerous. But I don't need these shortened Woodland numbers.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we introduce all of you to tonight's hockey expert, Mr. Ben Zwyman of DK Live, and the crowd goes wild.
Settle down, everyone. Please settle down. You in the back. That means you. All right, it's NHL opening face-off when you choose between the top choices at each position for tonight's 5-game slate. So beginning with the Leafs, they're facing Nashville, and you have to choose between their top 2 centers, Austin Matthews at $8,000 and John Tavares for $100 less. Zwyman, where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, until William Nylander starts to pick up his play, I think you have to lean John Tavares over Austin Matthews for the Maple Leafs. They've got a pretty tough draw at home against the Predators, who are going to be almost fully healthy for the first time in a while. Philip Forsberg's expected to be back for them. They're going to be tough draw. But yeah, I mean, JT's been playing better than Matthews lately. 14 points in his last 10 games. His shot volume has been better. I mean, with Mitch Marner on his wing, I think you have to go JT until Matthews and William Nylander start to get their chemistry going. Though I will say it's a decent spot to play both of them tonight. I think they'll be low owned because they're the top 2 price centers on the slate. I think a lot of lineups will look at Sean Monahan, Ryan O'Reilly of the Blues, guys like that. They'll pay down. So you may be able to get them at low ownership. And again, they're 2 great players. So yeah, they can pop at any moment.
Ben, out on the wing, Johnny Gaudreau has been mashing over the last 5 games. Will cost you $7,700. You can ride or die with him or save some cash for another hottie toddy right now, which would be San Jose's Evander Kane, who's averaging 4.5 fantasy points per game over his last 10 outings. He's 5-6 this evening against LA. Take your pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Evander Kane. I think you have to get exposure to Johnny Gaudreau and the Flames tonight against the Hawks. But it's not as much of a smash spot as you think. Colin D'Elia is in net for the Hawks. He's been playing extremely well. Gaudreau's averaging less fantasy points on the road this season. His price is high. His ownership will be high. I mean, you can save the salary with Kane. Kane's been good. 3 goals, 3 assists in his past 4 games. He's a high-volume shooter. The Sharks have a great matchup at home against the Kings. Kane, again, you mentioned his price, $5,600. I think both Gaudreau and Kane are pretty good cash game plays. I'd lean Kane as more of an off-the-wall for GPPs. So, yeah, I'll pay down.
All right, as for the blue line crew, Minnesota's Jared Spurgeon has 19 DK points in his last 2 games. Not too shabby, and costs $5,400 tonight at Montreal. How much do you like him? Or, there's always an or. Would you rather save yourself $500 and roster Chicago's Eric Gustafsson, who's been mad consistent for the Blackhawks? And like I mentioned, you're going to save $500 because he'll only cost you $4,900 at home against Calgary. What are you going to do?
All right, I'll go with Spurgeon just because his role is a little bit more defined. Gustafson's been playing great lately, but again, since Matt Dumba's been out for the Wild, Jared Spurgeon's been excellent. He's skating 25-33 of ice time per game. He's second in ice time on the power play behind Ryan Suter. He has 9 points in 11 games with Dumba out, 23 shots on goal, pretty good numbers. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists on this Canadian road trip for the Wild. The Habs have tightened up on defense lately, but the Wild are just a better team. They're playing better in the new year. Gustafson's been fantastic, though. He's actually 11th in the NHL among defensemen in points since the beginning of December, which is pretty notable. I like both guys. You can fit both of them into your lineup pretty easily. They're both cheap. I like Gustafson a little bit more in GPPs because the Hawks will be more against the grain against the Flames at home. Wild, bit better matchup against the Habs on the road. So, yeah, I like Spurgeon a bit more.
All right, well, now to the Greg Goldbergs of the world. Blackhawks netminder Colin D'Elia has been filling in for an injured Corey Crawford and doing fantastically well. Some would say even close to spectacular, going 3-0-1, putting up at least 6 fantasy points in each start. So he's $7K. Is he the one? Or you can pay out for Leafs goalie Michael Hutchinson, who just shut out the Canucks. He's 8,100 at home against Nashville. Take it away, Benjamin.
D'Elia is the one. I'm going to play Morpheus here. D'Elia is the one. I like the correlation between both guys. Hutchinson high-priced at home, tough matchup. D'Elia low-priced at home, tough matchup. But yeah, like you said, D'Elia 3-0-1, 198 goals against average, 9.52 save percentage in 4 starts for the Hawks. He's averaging nearly 40 saves per game in that stretch, which is kind of ridiculous. You run the risk, again, he's against the Flames. The Flames are the best team in the Western Conference. They could get lit up tonight. D'Elia could get lit up. But again, he's averaging 40 saves per game. That's too many points. His price is so low. There's really not many goaltenders, cheap goaltenders on this slate, so I think D'Elia is where you got to turn. Hutchinson isn't a very good goaltender at all. I think he'll get blown up at some point, and tonight may be the night. So yeah, D'Elia's the guy.
Wow, kind of feels like an episode of The Bachelor out here. A lot of he's the one, roses being handed out. So speaking of roses, slate approved pick time. Who's your lock play of the night? Ben, who are you giving your rose to?
Yeah, I'm giving the rose to my man PK Subban, the Predators, on the road, but a homecoming of sorts. He's from Toronto. They're playing the Maple Leafs. He's 5,300. He's got 2 assists his last game against the Canadiens, his former team. The game before that, he scored. He's on the 3rd pairing. I don't know if I'd get turned off a bit about that. He's still going to skate 20-plus minutes, I think. He's on the power play. Philip Forsberg coming back is good for the Preds. Yeah, a little bit of narrative with Subban, but I like him. I like him to put up a good game tonight.
Ben, you are free to go. Thank you for helping us out. We appreciate it. As for all you fine folks watching right now, we have a major announcement, an exciting event to tell you about. For those of you in the tri-state area, especially this Friday through Sunday, that's the 11th through the 13th, DraftKings will be hosting its first ever sports betting national championship.
Where DK will crown its first ever DraftKings sports betting national champion in Jersey City, New Jersey. You could have the chance to compete for the grand prize of $1 million.
Which is still a lot of money, Dr. Evil.
Yes.
For more information, all the deets, hit up DraftKings.com right meow.
Who our NBA guys are building their lineups around is right after this preview of tonight's college football national championship.
Bama or Clemson?
Alabama and Clemson getting ready to clash in college football's national championship game Monday night. I'm Adam Kaufman looking at some of the betting lines with Ben Rasa. He is a contributor to Osmo.com, also a frequent guest to the Pat Mayo Experience, and Pat would love to know that he's getting a shout out here, Ben. Bama's favored by 5.5 points, so what do you think of the spread?
You know, I think it's pretty fair, to be honest. We're obviously going to dive into it. I'm on the Clemson side, so, I think it should be a little lower personally, maybe in the, a field goal range, +3, +3.5 for Clemson. But I can see, obviously, Bama being the favorite, just coming off just an unbelievable year for them.
Crimson Tide ranks 2nd in the nation in points per game. The Tigers 4th. So projected line total 60.5. Is that actually too low?
I think it's interesting. Obviously, Clemson's missing a big piece. Dexter Lawrence not going to play. But, games like this, I have a feeling both teams do try to establish the run. The clock will be moving. we could see a big special teams play, maybe an interception or something to pump up that total. But I think it's pretty fair again. I actually lean to the under. I think this game probably ends in the 20s for both teams.
How about the money line? Clemson plus 180, Alabama minus 225. Is there any value to playing the money line over trying to go against the spread?
For me, I honestly think there is. I don't want to take too aggressive a stand, but I think Clemson wins the game. I know that's against the grain, but, they're about plus 180. That means, if they're winning this game more than like 35% of the time, you're getting some good value there. And I view it truly as a toss-up. I don't know if we know truly how good Clemson is. They played somewhat of a soft schedule with the ACC, but I'll take a stab at, don't even give me the points. Give me the plus 180 with Clemson.
A player prop I always enjoy in games like this, who's going to score the first touchdown. So looking at the odds, which player has the edge?
So I'm going to go, sticking with Clemson. I'll take T. Higgins. He's one of their big wide receivers, giant guy, red zone threat. Obviously, can it be the running back, of course, or Bama could score first. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Trevor Lawrence take some shots early in the game. And that guy, like I said, he's 6'4", dynamic, catches a ton of touchdowns. I think Bama could really struggle defending him. So, you're getting 10, 11 to 1 I've seen at some of the books. So I'll take a stab there and hope that Clemson can strike first.
All right, Ben Rosser from Osmo.com, also a big Clemson guy. Thanks, man. Enjoy the game.
Appreciate it. Take care.
All righty, welcome back to The Sweat, where we are not sweating our NBA lineups because of these guys, DK Live's Gary and Thorne and Julian Edlow, plus DFS NBA expert Jeff Eisenband.
Now, before we talk about who you three are building your lineups around, is there any late-breaking lineup news that you're keeping an eye on before lock here, Jeff?
Not too much. I just saw that we were talking about Rudy Gay not being in with the Spurs. Jakob Poeltl will be the starter, so that's just interesting going with a big as opposed to another wing.
Okay, Gary, anything to add there?
No. Got to get Pirtle in there. He's got to impress Dwayne Casey in that strange kind of half revenge game, I guess. Kuzma's the one guy. And we'll talk about the showdown lineup or showdown slate a little bit later, so maybe we'll get into Kuzma then.
That's very true. Julian, anything to add real quick?
Not much. Etuan Moore just got ruled out, but I don't think I'm really looking at any value on the Pelicans in that matchup against Memphis. I guess the only thing, and this isn't even really late breaking news, but earlier in the day, I didn't realize exactly how thin the Nets are against the Celtics tonight. They have 4 or 5 key rotation guys out, so I do like a lot more minutes for Shabazz Napier, who is only 3,400 and has the hometown narrative. He's a Roxbury, Mass guy, played at UConn, so strong play on this slate for Shabazz Napier.
Well, feel free to chime in with any news and notes as the show continues.
Right.
The show is live. We're trying to compete
Break
with
some
major
news.
outlets out there.
Yeah.
But let's jump into your top choices at each position. Please tell us who you are building your lineup around at center. Garion.
Got to go with Nikola Vucevic. It seems like a really easy pick when you look at just the top of the center pricing board. He's the only one with that lovely, lovely green matchup glowing, standing out to everybody. But it's true. The Kings are catnip for centers, man. They just can't do anything to stop opposing bigs. You go through the numbers. Across the last 10 games, they have the worst overall rebounding rate in the NBA at just 46%. For the entirety of the season, they've allowed the 3rd most made field goals by opponents in the restricted area. They just can't seem to stop anyone who gets the ball close to the basket, which is unfortunate because they give a bunch of offensive rebounds. So I just think Nikola Vucevic is in a really good spot. And we talked about the pace of this game, too. I think it's going to be really high scoring. So I like Orlando's top scorer.
Julian, who are you going with? This is a question, actually, that came in on YouTube earlier by Joseph Bevers. Who was the top true center tonight? So can you help this guy out?
Yeah, so for me, this was between Yusuf Nurkic against the Knicks and DeAndre Jordan against the Lakers. And Nurkic has really been on a tear. I would love to play them both, but if I'm picking one, it's DeAndre Jordan because of that price tag, $6,100 against the Lakers. He's at home. The only downside I could find is that Jordan did struggle in this matchup twice this season. He's played twice against the Lakers and only averaged just over 26 DraftKings points in those contests. So he's been a bust twice, but I'm going to say that that's been a fluke because the Lakers cannot handle bigs. At 6,100, this is a guy that if you look back through his game log, he was 7,400 just around Christmas time. So you're getting a really big discount. I think this is a really good spot for him to get a double-double, go for 40-plus DraftKings points, and really exceed value.
Empire, who's your big beefy center?
I have Nikola Jokic on here, and so he's the second most expensive center, but he's still $1,600 less than Anthony Davis. He's coming off a 73-point outing. He's had at least 52 in his last 4, and I think this is, in terms of narrative, are the Nuggets the best team in the West? You got the best player in the world, James Harden, on the other side. Marquee matchup. I like Jokic.
All right, now which player could you build your lineup around at forward, Jeff?
So this is a guy who could play center, but if I'm building my lineup around someone at forward, I look at Blake Griffin right now. He's 8,500. He's 2,900 behind Giannis and even more behind Anthony Davis at that forward position. We've talked about it. Blake Griffin is on a bit of a roll right now, more so than people I think thought he was going to be in Detroit. 49 plus in his last 3. So I like Blake Griffin, especially with no Rudy Gay on the other side.
Kardashian curse. Gary, and who are you going with?
It's real.
Give me Luka. Let's go Luka Doncic in this one. Like I said, we'll talk a lot about this game next segment, but to get into it briefly, we were doing the over-unders off the top. This is like a sneaky candidate to be the highest scoring game of the night. Now, I know the Lakers have been atrocious offensively since LeBron James went down, but they've also upped their tempo even more than what was already a top 5 pace in the league. They're running over 107 possessions per 48 minutes in the 6 games since LeBron went down. And Dallas, to their credit, in that same span is also inside the top 10 in pace. So I just think there's going to be a lot of counting stats accumulated in this game. Doncic hasn't been shooting well lately, but he's still been shooting. That's really the more important part here. So if he just even has like a 45% shooting night, to go along with the fact that the Lakers have allowed over 52 rebounds per game across their last 6 games, I just think he's going to bring it to you in a lot of different ways, and we're on double-double watch with him.
Julian.
Yeah, I mean, I like both of those plays a lot, but we just talked about some really expensive centers. I know we're going to talk about some really expensive guards, so I feel like forward is a spot where I need to save money on this slate. So I'm going with Kyle Anderson for $5,200 on the Memphis Grizzlies. He's got that up-paced matchup, fast-paced matchup against the New Orleans Pelicans that we talked about off the top of the show. He's got a really safe floor of 20 to 25 DraftKings points. 25 would pretty much be reaching value for him, but if you look at his game log, he's got a really high ceiling, 45.25 DraftKings points 2 games ago against the Nets, 39.25 DraftKings points 4 games ago against Houston. And the one time that he played New Orleans this season, he went off for over 52 DraftKings points in that matchup. So if he does that again, you're getting 10 times value here at a really nice mid-price play.
Julian, keep talking, but let's make the subject guards.
I can keep talking for you, Emerson. Here we're going to go a lot more chalky. James Harden is just too safe of a play, and we can open this up to the whole slate. I'm paying for Harden at $12K over guys like Anthony Davis and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who are in the same price range. None of them have good matchups on paper. Denver really good covering guards, but with Chris Paul out, with Eric Gordon out, you're not going to find a safer play, and he's just on such a tear, averaging whatever it is, 72.4 DraftKings points over his last 5 games. He's got that 91 DK point ceiling that he showed us against the Warriors, so he is the slate-approved pick here for the whole slate, I would say.
Okay, well, you were supposed to save your slate-approved pick until the last
block,
yeah,
I think people are probably going to be able to tell that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You absolutely screwed everything up. Go ahead, Jeff.
I have Kyrie Irving in here. He is 2,800 less than Harden, and I've been saying this. Kyrie right now is not the same player that he was, say, the first month of the season. He's getting back to that prime form that he was in a year ago. He's had at least 50 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4. We mentioned the injury problems that the Nets have. Also, Kyrie gets up for this game. He's from New Jersey, so he's got that Nets thing going on. I like Kyrie at home.
Take it away, Garion.
Yeah, let's keep the narrative angle of the DeMar DeRozan revenge tour going. This isn't really technically a revenge game for DeMar because he and Casey were both banished off the island, so they're kind of boys, actually. But look, I'm a Raptors fan. I had to sit there and watch all 48 minutes of him just tear apart Toronto's defense for a triple-double. And while that was the first of his career, he's been playing triple-double basketball for basically the last 10 games for the Spurs. We all know he's really their de facto point guard, but you go through that time span, he is not only leading the team in potential assists across the last 10 games, but he's also leading them in rebounding chances across the last 10 games. We know he can score. There's been some fluctuation there because there's just been really, really one-sided Spurs games for about the last 4 weeks now. I think Detroit can keep it close at home. So I think DeMar's going to actually have to play for 36 minutes. And again, he's playing like a guy who's looking for triple doubles every night.
All right, take a quick break, you three. We meet back here for the final block of the show, which, for all of you anxiously inquiring online, is showdown picks for the Lakers Mavs game.
But first, we're bringing back our NFL panel for one more block. Also, the Packers have a new head coach, what it means for the fantasy value of Aaron Rodgers and company. And spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about game spreads as well.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen, and with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash, Lamar's our quarterback going forward. There's no question about that. That is a direct quote. Wow. Nothing to read into there. That is John Harbaugh after the Ravens lost to the Chargers in the wild card round Sunday afternoon. While the offense evidently struggled against LA's front seven, Baltimore's head coach stuck with Lamar Jackson the entire game. The first-round QB is the guy going forward, too. Where does that leave Joe Flacco? Well, Harbaugh said post-game Flacco is going to have a market this offseason. Joe Cool started in the Ravens' first 9 games of the year. He managed to keep his cool when he was sent to the Pine. Wasn't all that bad, close to 2,500 yards passing, 12 TDs to 6 picks. By moving on from Flacco, Baltimore would save $10.5 million against the cap. The upcoming NFL offseason offers a very weak free agent QB class. Plus, there's no hype surrounding signal callers in the 2019 draft. So you bet teams will be getting on the phone to express interest in the 2012 Super Bowl MVP.
Breaking news. So at the start of the show, there were 8 head coaching vacancies in the NFL. Right now, there are only 7 because the offensive coordinator of the Titans, reportedly by all the big dogs out there, Matt LaFleur, is going to be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Let's bring in one of our NFL experts here, Reed Fowler. I want to ask you real quickly, dude. This is a guy who has learned under guys like Sean McVay and Shanahan. He's got a big offensive mind. What do you think he's going to do to the offensive or the fantasy value, rather, for like Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, right? When you think of Matt LaFleur, you think of what you said, that coaching tree, that if there is one, I think McVay and LaFleur are the first 2 of the Shanahan coaching tree. And there's this race to arms to get guys like this, to get the McVays. But if you look at Matt LaFleur, 2015 and 16, obviously with Matt Ryan, TDs and passing yards in top 10, and that was his MVP season for Matt Ryan. But this guy ran the ball quite a bit. The Tennessee Titans were the second most run-heavy team last season. So was it a personnel thing? And that's kind of what you look at with Matt LaFleur. He's been in the league since 2008, and he's obviously got different jobs, most notably, obviously, with those Falcons. And so it remains to be seen. I mean, Matt Ryan was a guy that we always coincide with him in that Falcons offense. And he came in second in 2016 in touchdowns to Aaron Rodgers, who came in first. So we like the value for Aaron Rodgers going up. Remains to be seen, though, what he's going to do with that offense, and especially in free agency, if these guys go pick up someone outside of the marquee guys there. So I like it. Again, I'm not convinced that it's just going to increase all. The tide's going to rise all ships. We still have to see what personnel comes through.
I mean, he's got to be able to bring some kind of creativity to that offense that's just loaded with weapons.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he ran the ball. If you look at, especially with the Titans, he ran the ball actually more than Malarkey and Exotic Smash Mouth. Warren Sharp on Twitter actually tweeted that out. Again, it comes down to personnel, right? And Matt LaFleur, if he has guys like Aaron Jones, like obviously the guys in that backfield, you really think that Aaron Rodgers, especially getting later in his age, really want to see more weapons, because essentially he had rookies out there in that offense, and you really want to see these guys maturate and mature. And Rodgers is getting older. His season wasn't all that great. It's not only Mike McCarthy on that offense; it's also Rodgers too. He made some bonehead plays. So this is obviously a good hire. Obviously, with I think in terms of the coaching vacancies out there, this was one of the better ones in terms of being more exciting. But it still remains to be seen.
All right, let's bring in Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich so we can continue this segment here. What are we talking about?
Let's see. We would love to get your thoughts on the following spreads for this weekend's NFL Divisional Round games, and if you think they're too high or too low, which is why we call this segment High or Low.
Wow. Thanks for that. So, Reed,
so welcome.
The Patriots are 4.5-point home favorites against the Chargers. Too high or too low?
I'm going to lean towards, and this one's tough, right? Because the Chargers have been so good on the road. I think this is a little too high. And I think the Chargers, look, you're going to hear Rivers has never won or never beat a Tom Brady-led Patriots. But look, 8-1 against the spread on the road with a +7 differential. These guys essentially play road games at home. They don't really have a home field advantage. And the Chargers, doesn't matter where they go. If they travel out east, again, you hear that narrative, west to east at 1 o'clock, essentially playing that 10 a.m. game. I just don't necessarily think that the Patriots at this point, even though their home splits are high, I don't think that they can reach this. I think the Chargers are playing great football on three facets, right? Special teams, having a kicker that can actually make kicks, and that defense is really, really good. So I'm going to say this is a little too high, but it's a good line.
Jeff, do you have as little faith in the Patriots as Reed?
Oh, I have less faith.
Ooh.
Chargers, baby. I mean, I think this is too high as well. Everyone's going to point to the home record for the Patriots this year. Great. This is the playoffs. The Chargers are coming in on a roll, and I just think they're the better team right now. Patriots have been dealing with injuries all year. Yeah, they've been holding them up well. They're turned into like a bit of a power running team. I think the Chargers are a better defense that are coming on with a lot of pressure right now. I think that's going to work for them. They have the running backs. They have depth at running back, even if Melvin Gordon gets hurt. And look, the underdogs have been really, really, really productive or just, paying off well in the playoffs over the last year and a half. So I think they're like 14, 15-1 now over the last 2 years. So give me the points here with the Chargers.
Pierce, what do you think?
Too low. The Chargers are on a roll. What are they going to do? Come in and kick a bunch of field goals and cover the spread? That's not going to work in New England. New England covered the spread in every game at home except for one. It's the Patriots off a bye in the playoffs. How can you go against the Patriots and take the Chargers? It's crazy. It's crazy. It's too low.
All right, Jeff, the AFC's top-seeded Chiefs are 5.5-point home favorites against Captain Andrew Luck, and the Colts too high or too low, my dearest friend?
Okay, well, Pierce might have not liked that one, but I don't really care what he says about this one. Look, the Chiefs are in deep trouble here. This is their worst nightmare. Andy Reid, his playoff record, it's just not good. He gets too conservative at times, and then you have Frank Reich on the other side of this, heading an offense that can attack you in multiple ways, a defense that has a great secondary, and he's an aggressive coach. We saw this when he went for it in overtime. This is all kinds of bad. I think the Colts are going to win this game outright. So 5 points, yeah, this is way too high to give the Chiefs. I know they have Mahomes. I know they have Tyreek Hill. But the Colts have given up the fewest sacks in the league. So even with that good pass rush they have, it's probably going to be rendered ineffective. No, give me the points with the Colts here. This is too high.
Pierce, whatever you are about to say, Jeff does not care.
Well, he should care because this is too low. Andy Reid off the bye, 17-3. Andy Reid does not lose after a bye week. And people are going to sell you the Mahomes is too young, the rookie can't play well in the playoffs narrative. We've seen a lot of good quarterbacks, like guys like Tom Brady, who was too young, win a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, Dan Marino was good in the playoffs when he was young. Don't buy into it. Mahomes is ready. The Chiefs are going to blow him out.
Jeff?
Andy Reid, 1-4 in his playoff games with the Kansas City Chiefs.
What about
he beat the Texans once? Wow, congrats, Andy Reid.
17-3.
All right, Reid, go ahead. I'd like to get your opinion. Yeah, you only have like 10 seconds. I would like to hear your opinion at least.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff here. I think this is too high. Like Kansas City 4-4 at home against as favorites at home, and really Arrowhead should be a pretty big advantage for these guys. But I just think, with that running game, Damian Williams, these guys have been playing well, but I just think this is too high, especially for a rookie quarterback. I know Patrick Mahomes is fantastic, but this is just too high.
Guys, Rams are 7-point home favorites against the Cowboys. How do we feel about this one, Pierce? Too high, too low? Maybe it's just right. I don't know.
Like porridge.
It's too high for me. And so the media narrative is going to hype up America's team, the Cowboys, all week. And I'm already falling for it. I'm believing in the Cowboys, and I'm believing in Ezekiel Elliott running for 200 yards. And you think about the Rams laying an egg last year. It's too high for me. I guess the sharp side would say that this is too low, but I just can't do that.
Reid, too high, too low?
Yeah, I'm with Pierce here. I think when you give a guy like McVay, one of the better coaches, obviously a couple weeks to prepare for whatever team, right? Even if it's Dallas, I just think this is too high. I think that pass offense is too good. Even though the Rams' rush defense is bad per DVOA, and Ezekiel Elliott could get, again, 35 to 40 touches, I think this is too high.
Jeff, too high?
Did you guys give Pierce a script before just to get me on? Is that why he's back? Just to get me more fired up?
Yep.
No, but we like fired up, Jeff.
It's Jason Garrett versus Sean McVay. The Rams could be playing in like spacesuits, and I'd still take this. I mean, this is way, way too low. This is going to be a destruction. And also, just look at Dak's quarterback rating on the road. It's not good. The Rams here are going to roll.
All right, well, I'm sensing a trend here. The spreads just keep getting bigger because the Saints are 8-point home favorites against the Eagles. Too high, too low? Need to know, Reed.
I'm never on the Foles train, and I always am wrong on this, so I'm going to defer to Jeff. I'm going to just say it's too high because Foles, for whatever he's doing, his third down efficiency, whatever you want to call it, his attempts, they're all, in terms of the postseason, they're all pretty dang good. So I'm just staying away from this game just because the Saints defense is really good, but Foles has been doing it, so I'm just going to say too high.
All right, go ahead, Jeff.
It's Nick Foles. I mean, how could I ever possibly pick against Nick Foles? Probably just wait till later in the week when everyone starts telling everyone how bad Nick Foles is and this line gets up to 10, and then just take the Eagles. So, yeah, give me the points. It's too high.
Pierce, I remember you saying earlier in the show Nick Foles was your pick for quarterback. You're not going against him, right?
Yeah, it's too high. But also, look, the Saints rested everybody last week, and then they have a bye week. They're going to come in out of sync. I wouldn't be surprised to see them sluggish and not converting first downs. And meanwhile, you got the Eagles who are on an absolute tear. They're going to go into halftime. This game's going to be close. They're going to end up in a dogfight in the second half. No way they can cover this spread.
You three are good to go. Thanks
Adios.
for helping out. NBA Showdown picks, though, are next. So for the millions of you watching, please don't go anywhere.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen in with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Lakers are in Dallas tonight taking on the Mavs. The game is featured as a DK Showdown contest. LA looks to bounce back after getting trounced by the Wolves Sunday night, 22-point loss. As LeBron James' absence lingers, head coach Luke Walton has challenged his 21-year-olds. Geez, I just made it sound like he's their dad. Sorry, Lamar. Yeah, Lonzo Ball is one of the players Walton needs more passion from. Lonzo logged a goose egg, 0-point scoring in Minnesota last night. While Walton said more passion doesn't mean scoring more, it's kind of the case for Ball, who has struggled away from Staples Center this year. Ball is $13,500 as a captain, $9K in a flex role. Walton also needs more passion and fight from Brandon Ingram, the most expensive Laker in this contest. Ingram was just 5 for 16 from the field last night at the Wolves, his lowest field goal percentage, 31, in his last 10 games. Ingram also owns just one double-digit rebounding effort in his last 10. Makes sense, as Walton added, there has to be more grabbing rebounds. The Lakers' lottery backcourt of Ball and Ingram aims to please their head coach.
All righty, final block of the show. A bajillion of you have been writing in, demanding NBA Showdown picks for this Lakers-Mavericks game, and these guys are here to answer the call. Gary and Thorne, Julian Edlow, Jeff Eisenband.
So, Jeff, start us off here. Who's worthy of throwing into your captain spot?
I mean, Julian touched on this earlier with DeAndre Jordan, and might be a little bit of a stretch, but where I'm looking here is banged up Lakers team. And again, I think DeAndre Jordan was a totally different player in November. His stats from November to December are totally different. He averaged 15.8 rebounds in December. I think if you throw JaVale McGee out there, he can't keep up with DeAndre Jordan on the board. If you throw Tyson Chandler out there, he can't keep up running up and down the floor with DeAndre Jordan. And DeAndre Jordan actually has the second highest average of DFS points with Luka Doncic in this game being number one. So I'm going DeAndre.
Julian, sounds familiar?
Yeah, I did touch on this earlier, and I'm going to touch on it again. I think DeAndre Jordan is a great play on the main slate, so why not captain him if you're going to be playing this one showdown slate? The only thing I will say is that if Kyle Kuzma is ruled out again, you can start looking at guys like Brandon Ingram and Lance Stevenson, who obviously get a huge uptick in usage with Kuzma off the floor. To slot into that captain spot. But Jordan's a lot cheaper than Doncic and has a much better matchup. So I think you got to go that way on this slate.
Garion, your captain, please.
Yeah, it really came down to DeAndre Jordan or to Luka Doncic, and I've already talked about Doncic, so I thought I'd keep the brand consistent because that's what they teach you to do at social media school. So I'm going to talk about Luka Doncic for a second. I just think that you look at where this guy ranks, even just on his own team. He's the leading scorer. He's second in rebounding. He's second in assists. He has the ability to really rack up the counting stats. And as I talked about, with the Lakers running such an up-tempo offense with LeBron James not on the court, I just think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to really build up those counting stat numbers. And you look at the construct of both these teams, like Dallas runs a really, really deep rotation, so it's kind of hard to trust many guys beyond their top-tier players. And while I do agree with Julian, if we don't see Kuzma in this game, Ingram obviously gets a boost. Like, he and Lonzo really haven't done a whole lot in their last 2-3 games where they've had this opportunity. They haven't been consistent at the very least. So I think it really does come down to one of these two guys.
Garion, help the people at home find some value, please.
Well, along with Kuzma, if he's not playing, seems like Michael Beasley is going to get like 18 minutes. I don't know if the minutes expansion from game 1 to game 2 since he came back from that personal matter was more about the score or more about him getting back into game shape. But I'm going to kind of like play the middle ground game and say he plays like 17, 18, 19 minutes tonight. And Michael Beasley doesn't have a conscience. That's great for shutdown purposes. This guy's still averaging over 16 field goal attempts per 36 minutes this season. I don't know if that's what Luke Walton wants him to do, but he's going to do it. So if Kuzma doesn't play, I like Beasley a lot.
Jeff, take it away.
Knicks legend, Michael Beasley. I'm looking at Dwight Powell, 6,600, and a guy who I just look at the last 3 games. 2 out of those last 3 is 25 plus. I mentioned the Lakers being a little bit thin in the front court, so I'll go Powell there.
Jules.
I'm looking at Tyson Chandler. He's only $1,400, and he's coming off a 6.10 rebound game that got him 20 DK points in 22 minutes. He's certainly not a sure thing. He had 9 DraftKings points the game before it, but if you're digging down here on these value spots, Michael Beasley, Dwight Powell, I don't think there are any sure things down here, so Chandler stood out to me as a really cheap play.
Julian, is there a reach play that could help you round out your lineup here?
There is a reach play. Dirk Nowitzki is $1,000. He's also been playing terrible lately. But if you look at that last game in Boston before he rested against the 76ers over the weekend, he did play 16 minutes and take 10 shots. He just missed all of them and had 2 DraftKings points, which is brutal. But the Lakers are terrible defensively. Maybe it'll be one of those nights where he's looking to get his shot up. He clearly was in Boston. So there's got to be some upside here for a guy that's $1,000 that can take 10 shots in a game. Maybe he'll make one tonight.
Gary, and who are you reaching for?
Yeah, we got to get some word from like the Los Angeles beat writers about whether or not they're going to be like chanting his, I guess the game's in Dallas. They'll be chanting his name anyway. But yeah, I'm going to agree with Julian on the Tyson Chandler front. And Jeff kind of talked about it too. I think one of the ways the Lakers are going to try and contain DeAndre Jordan, probably unsuccessfully, is giving Tyson Chandler a lot of minutes. He seems to be the one physically who can match up best with Tyson Chandler. He's got that veteran savvy that we all love. In the last 3 times he's played at least 20 minutes, he's gotten double-digit rebounds. So at that price point, if you do think they're going to have to turn to him early in this game, he's probably going to do it again.
Jeff, talk to me about your reach play.
First of all, if Tyson Chandler and Dirk are on the floor at the same time, they're going to make a pact to keep it the same pace, I feel like, at this point. But I'm going at Moritz Weasley, Mo Wagner, 1,500 points coming off a game where he just played. Yes, the Lakers got blown out. He played 19 minutes, had 15 DK fantasy points. The Lakers need a spark, and they haven't. They kept Wagner in the G League to start the season, but he's up now. He's playing, so why not reach with Mo Wagner?
All right, guys. Before the sweat comes to a close, how about your slate-approved pick, your lock for tonight's entire slate, not just this showdown? Garion.
Let's go back to Nikola Vucevic. He's been a DKFP machine so far this season, and Sacramento's just bad against centers.
All right, Jeff, you're up.
A name we haven't talked about, De'Aaron Fox at 6,900 tonight.
Okay, and that would leave Julian here. Julian, who gave us a slate-approved pick earlier in the show, but I know there's some people watching now who were not watching earlier, so explain to us who it is.
Yes, Emerson, not everyone tunes in for the full hour to see the gun show there in the DK studio. It's James Harden. He's $12,000, and he's still too cheap, averaging 72.4 DraftKings points over his last 5 games. The matchup does not matter. Lock James Harden in.
All right,
Maybe
good
he's
stuff.
playing himself.
Julian, I also noticed you added like a pennant to your wall after you noticed your backdrop.
That's a different wall completely.
Yeah, he moved.
I just moved spots,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
now there's some decoration on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Very
fair enough.
perceptive of you,
Jeff's
Emerson.
background that I got.
That was
No
very
one,
good.
no one can compete with Jeff's background. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's legit a building.
That's
CN
very
Towers
true.
on the other side of the building. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, guys, this has been The Sweat. I'm
Later,
Jessie. He's Emerson. We're going to be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook,
the DK Live app.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will you be there? All right, I'll make sure of it. We'll see you tomorrow at 6.